Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is a Tuesday, and all of our guests, including Stu Cowan, who covers the Habs for the Montreal Gazette, standing by, brought to you by our friends at the Waddling Dog. We're joined now by Stu from the Montreal Gazette. Habs in Vancouver tonight. Habs have lost 2 straight after winning 5 straight, fighting for a wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, similar to what the Canucks have going on in the West. Stu, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Very, very well. Playoffs or not, Stu, if they happen or not, has this team exceeded expectations?
Well, going into the season at the golf tournament to start the year, the goal was to be in the mix. That was the big slogan they had, and they are in the mix. And that's despite Patrick Laine missing significant time at the beginning of the season. Caden Gooley's been out now for a significant amount of time, so they've had injuries, they've had other things to overcome, but they're right now where management wanted them to be, and that's why Kent Hughes didn't make any moves at the trade deadline. He had told the guys before the season that if you perform and you're in the mix, we'll do everything we can to help you at the trade deadline. And the best thing to help them was to do nothing and keep the core group that they have together right now.
For old-timers like me, Stu, it's fun to see the Montreal Canadiens with a significant amount of stars in their lineup. And everybody in Vancouver, and keep in mind this is where Quinn Hughes plays, although he's injured right now, pretty excited to see somebody like that in Lane Hudson. What do the Habs have in Lane Hudson?
Oh, he's a special player, similar to Hughes. I mean, I remember the day the Habs drafted him. The draft was at the Bell Center, and he came out and he was wearing a Canadian sweater, and it looked like an 8-year-old who had borrowed his father's sweater. It was just falling off his shoulders. I remember looking at him and saying, "Oh my God, this kid's going to get killed." I mean, at the time, I think he was like 140 pounds, soaking wet. But he came into camp, and I remember asking Rob Ramage, the director of player development at the training camp, like, "How's this kid going to play defense in the NHL?" And he said he's like a dog on a bone playing defense on the puck, and that's exactly what he's been. I'm sure there's been times he's been exposed a little bit, his size, and he's also a rookie, but he's playing like 25 minutes a game. He played more than half of the third period the other night against Calgary, and it was a highlight show. He's just an incredibly talented. The vision he has, the way he can pass the puck, how hard he works. It's the compete level that's impressed Marty St. Louis as much as anything else. So for fans who are going to the game tonight in Vancouver who haven't seen him live, he really is a treat to watch. He's just and the kid loves hockey. He's had a 3-day break earlier in the season. And I said, what did you do? He said, I just sat at home waiting to come back to practice. He just loves the game, and it shows with the way he plays it.
Stu, Cole Caulfield, 31 goals. I bring this up because 5 spots after the Canucks took Vasily Podkolzin. It is still, he could have been a Canuck. But this guy's unbelievable. 10 power play goals, 5 game winners. All he does is score goals.
And it's funny because I had the same reaction to him as I had to Caulfield. It was in Vancouver where they
yes.
Caulfield. And again, he came out and he was just this little tiny kid. And I'm 6'3", and he came up to about the middle of my chest, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to get killed. But you look at Cole Caulfield today compared to Cole Caulfield now. The Canadiens had a video on their X account yesterday of guys in the locker room clowning around, and Caulfield had his shirt off, and the kid's ripped now. Like, he's put the time in the gym. He's really filled out. He's not any taller than he was, but he's much stronger, and it shows on the ice. And I mean, that shot he has is elite level shot. The first evaluation camp he came to with the Canadiens, I remember we were in the press box in Brossard at their practice rink, and he came down the wing and he let a shot go. The goalie didn't even see it. It hit him off the shoulder, and everybody in the press box, usually, development camp, you're sort of watching, and everybody went, wow. I mean, the way this kid can shoot the puck. And under Marty St. Louis, he's turned to Marty St. Louis said, I'm not going to teach Cole Caulfield how to score goals. He already knows how to do that, but I'm going to be able to teach him to be a 200-foot hockey player, and we've seen that. Especially this season, we've seen he competes so hard at both ends of the ice. He's responsible defensively, and he's got that wicked shot, and and he's not afraid to use it. If he gets a chance, and him and Nick Suzuki together are quite a pair, and another guy, just a lot of fun to watch, and a goal scorer that the Habs have missed for so long. The last 40 goal scorer the Habs had was Vinny Damphus.
Wow,
a long time ago. So he has a chance to hit 40 this season. We'll see if he can do it. But again, just a really, really fun player to watch.
It is hard to believe. Brendan Gallagher is 32 years old. It seems like just yesterday he was playing for the Vancouver Giants. He became a father recently. You've watched him grow as a player and as a person. How has his play been this year?
He's been Brendan Gallagher. I mean, he every shift, every practice, it's all 100% effort. I mean, he'll never change. That's just the way he plays. That's why his body's been banged up. But he hasn't been injured this season. And last season, the only games he missed was when he was suspended for 5 games. The compete level is always there. He's not the player he was, obviously, as he's getting older and as the injuries catch up. He's also, I think he's going to be going to my barber in a few years too. He's starting to lose a little on the top, but he's Brendan Gallagher. I mean, I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago. He's still the heart and soul of this team. I mean, Nick Suzuki's the captain, but Brendan Gallagher is the heart and soul and the heartbeat of this team. Marty Stanley brings everybody into the fight with him.
Yeah.
He competes so hard. I'm sure he'll be pumped up tonight playing in Vancouver. But he's like that every game. Like every game, you know what you're going to get from Brendan Gallagher. And a lot of people focus on his contract now, saying he's overpaid, which he is. But he was underpaid when he was scoring 30 goals a year, and he never complained when he was underpaid. I remember asking him at one point, "Do you regret signing that contract long term?" And he says, "No, that was one of the best days of my life. I never thought I'd ever see that much money in my life." So he gets it, right? And but again, every single dollar the Canadiens have ever paid him, Brendan Gallagher has earned it. And one of the reasons he's so banged up, or the main reason he's so banged up, is just because the way he plays, and he plays through injuries. And he's still a key leader in that locker room.
So many stories on the Montreal Canadiens. Yuri Slafkovsky, first overall, 2022. Where's his game at?
Up and down. It's consistency is his biggest. We saw last season what he could do. Last half of the season, he was almost a point a game. Disappointing to start to this season. He's one of his own worst critics. I mean, he knows when he's playing well. He knows when he's not playing well. He said after the Four Nations face-off that he has to play more like Brady Tkachuk. And we saw that the first couple of games after the face-off break. He even got in a fight. He was throwing around. But he hasn't been able to do that consistently. And it's easy to forget he's only 20 years old. This is his third season in the NHL, but he's still a young kid. He's still growing. So the potential's still there. He had a meeting with Kent Hughes about midway through the season, and he has a new contract that kicks in next season that pays him $7 million a year. And Kent Hughes wasn't happy with the way he was playing. I made it very clear to him that the Canadiens expect a lot more from him. That's why they gave him that contract. But he's a good kid. One of the reasons the Canadiens picked him number one is they figured he could handle the spotlight that comes with playing here and all the pressure. And he's handled that really, really well. As I said, he's his own. He knows when he's playing well. He knows when he's not playing well. He self-criticizes his game very well, maybe too hard sometimes for a player as young as him. But we'll see. I mean, he's still, I said, 20 years old. And Kent Hughes said even after he signed the contract, there's going to be ups and downs. Progression doesn't just only go up for a young player like that. There'll be some dips, and we've seen some dips this year, but he's picked up his game since the Four Nations face-off break. And before the break, also, that whole number one line of Suzuki with Caulfield and Slafkovsky wasn't playing well. And they were 1-7-1 in their last 9 games before the break. And Nick Suzuki went to Kent Hughes and said, don't break up this team. We have something here. We want to play. And he said, well, go out and do something, because where we are now, and they were 6 points out going into the break, I said 1 win in their last 9 games, Hughes was going to trade off the guys who could be unrestricted free agents next season. They went out, they won their next 5 games. Suzuki, I think, had 13 points in those games. And Suzuki said he also wasn't happy with his line. And he spoke with his 2 line mates, and they really picked it up. So I was saying earlier, Kent Hughes sort of kept his word, and Nick Suzuki kept his word after that meeting. And he said, you're the captain of the team. It's on your shoulders. If you don't want me to make any moves at the trade deadline, this team's got to start winning some games. Now, back-to-back losses. They earned a point in Edmonton. They got shut out in Calgary, ran into a hot goalie. They're 4 points out of the wild card spot now. By the time of tonight's game starts, it could be 6 points out. So this is almost a must-win game for the Canadiens. I know the Canucks are in a similar situation. They can't afford to lose 3-4 games in a row just with how tight this wild card race is. So this is a huge, huge game for them. And then they play again tomorrow night in Seattle.
Just wrapping up with Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Habs, Canucks tonight, Rogers Arena. I got to ask you this, Stu, because it's an issue here in Vancouver. I go back to the days when the Habs would roll into town and there would be 3 buses, 1 for the team and 2 for the media, French and English. Do the Habs complain about the way the media covers them?
Not really. In fact, now, with budget cutbacks, there's less. I'm not traveling with them anymore. There's been less and less media now on the road with them. There's maybe 3 or 4 guys traveling with them now on the road. So that's changed. They realize it's part of it. And one of the really smart hires that the Canadiens made when Jeff Gorton took over as executive vice president of hockey operations, that he hired Chantal Machabee, as a media relations person. And Chantal is a living legend in Montreal and Quebec journalism. She was a real trailblazer for women in the field. She was with RDS, which is the French equivalent of TSN, for many, many years. She was an anchor, and then she covered the Canadiens for many years. They hired her, so she knows what the media demands are, and she knows she can explain to the players what they are. And she said she's been trying to explain, there's so many media out there now, right, with blogs and podcasts and whatnot. And she's been trying to sort of explain to the players the difference between the guys who are there every day and on the beat compared to, you can tune out maybe a little more some of the other guys. So Chantal's done a really, really good job of dealing with us and also dealing with the players and sort of building a better relationship. Because under Marc Bergevin at the end, it really wasn't good. I mean, he didn't like me, and after the Logan Mailloux, they drafted Logan Mailloux, and what hit the fan afterwards.
Yeah.
He was hand selecting that was during COVID area too. He was hand selecting which reporters would be allowed to be on Zoom conferences, and I wasn't one of them.
Wow.
But I sort of wore that as a badge of honor. If you're doing your job, you don't want to, you don't want these guys being your buddies. But yeah, at the end, it was just the relationship between the Canadiens and the media was really, really bad. And when they started the rebuild, Jeff Gorton realized that, and a way to sort of fix that or make it better anyway was to bring in Chantal Machabie. And it was, at the time I wrote, I couldn't think of a better person for that job, and she still is. Unfortunately, Chantal had a slip when the Habs were in Washington a month ago and hurt herself quite badly. So she's been off the job for a little while, but hopefully she'll be back soon. But she has the people working with her also in the media relations department. It's a much more, I don't want to say friendly, but we get a lot, it's a much better relationship now than it was before.
Is her contract up soon? Do you know by any chance, Stu?
We need help.
Is her contract up soon?
I don't know. I mean, Chantal lives and dies with the kids. Her parents weren't hot sports fans, but she fell in love with Guy Lafleur as a young girl, and she told me she has like 50 Guy Lafleur autographs. She used to wait outside the Forum, and when she was offered this job, she never really expected it. And it was France-Margaret Belanger, who's the president of Groupe CH, who approached her about the job. And at first, she was sort of stunned. And she says, "You want me to work for Guy Lafleur's team, like the team that I grew up?" Yeah. And she took a day to think about it, and then she took it. So it was a really good hire, and as I said, it made the relationship between the media and the Canadiens much better. And there's not as many media members on the road now with the Canadiens, but at home, there's a lot. I mean, there's 40, I'd say 30 reporters waiting outside the locker room after most practices, and it's a lot, and it's a lot for players to adjust to. And as I mentioned, that's one of the reasons why they drafted Slafkovsky, because they figured he could handle that. And Slafkovsky has a good relationship with me. He's a funny kid. He's got a great sense of humor. English isn't his first language, obviously. He speaks it very well, but he's a kid that's really hard not to like. And one of the things Chantal has told the players, like before it used to be the players were basically told, don't say anything to the media. Shortest answers you possibly can have, cliches, et cetera, et cetera. And she's told them, don't be afraid to show your personalities, because she said, that's why I fell in love with Guy Lafleur, because of the personality he was. Fans want to see your personality. So we've seen that come out. Cole Caulfield's a funny kid. Slafkovsky's a funny kid. We've seen it come out more and more in their interviews and that. And there's not that, it's not like when the media comes in, it's like, oh no, here they are, let's say nothing. It's gotten much better than that.
We could go on and on about the fabled Montreal Canadiens in town to play the Canucks. Stu, thanks for this. We'll get you back on.
All right, my pleasure. Have a good day, guys. You bet.